Harnessing hydroelectric power, at what cost? This project was devised in the context of the Natural Environment course at Dawson College in winter 2012 by
Katie Wheatley,
Emily Cosentino,
Léa Neumark-Gaudet,
and Jessica Boudreau.
The primary goal of Hydro-Quebec is to satisfy the province's need for electricity. Once that thirst is quenched, the energy harnessed here is sold for exportation primarily in the United States. In this way, the endeavor is a driving economic force for Quebec. Hydroelectric generating stations were first built in Quebec in the early 20th century. The great potential of freshwater rivers in Quebec quickly allowed us to become leaders in the production of hydropower. The first project in northern Quebec was a game changer in terms of energy production and capacity. This project of the century, as former Premier of Quebec, Robert Bourassa, coined it, was the establishment of the James Bay Project. This national project, in service since the 70s, is centered around the La Grande watershed, but also extends to surrounding waterways. In this presentation, we will focus on this installation as well as on the impacts of damming on the East Main River and on the Rupert River.
Created in 1971, the La Grande Hydroelectric Complex is composed of 4 dams along the La Grande Rivière. Each of the dams has a reservoir that accompanies it. Here's an image of the first dam to give you an idea of what they all resemble. This dam is the last one that the running water meets before it flows into James Bay. Many ecological problems have arisen as a result of the damming on the La Grande Rivière. These changes include, among other things, significant variation in the nutrient composition of the water. One of the many indicators of ecosystem stress is the lake white fish, who has been forced to alter its diet in order to survive. Moreover, the flooding to create new reservoirs not only radically changes its river's ecosystem, but also destroys the surrounding environment and causes habitat fragmentation. This can be devastating to many species, for example the caribou, who have been seen drowning when attempting to cross extensive, new stretches of flooded land.
Mercury contamination was originally unforeseen in the first hydro dam constructions. When land is flooded, bacteria turn stable elementary mercury in the soil into methyl mercury, which can dissolve in water. The mercury then accumulates in fish, a problem that came to light with Hydro-Quebec's earlier dam projects. One has to wonder whether or not adequate measures were taken to address the well-documented issue when both the diversion of the Rupert River and the East Main 1 power project were proposed.
The East Main River was one of several that was diverted towards La Grande. It is significant because 90% of its flow was diverted. It's been found that prior to diversion, the East Main River was a salt-free estuary. However, after the water deviation, there was an increased mixing of salt water and from La Grande Rivière. Many consequences of damming are being felt in the East Main River, and this includes effects of a number of species. For instance, as quoted in the report from Hydro-Quebec, whitefish yields have declined in the East Main River, whose flow was reduced. This decrease in catches is attributed to the greater turbidity of these waters from diversion. Coastal grasses are important sources of food for migratory birds, are also affected by changes in water flow that result from the East Main Dam creation. Preserving the diversity of species and habitat is one of numerous concerns for the East Main River.
What was once one of our last virgin rivers in Quebec, the Rupert River, home to rich biodiversity as well, has seen 73% of its flow diverted into the East Main and subsequently into the La Grande Reservoir. The Rupert Diversion Project called for the construction of significant hydraulic retaining structures, including a rock-filled dam on the Rupert River and 3 sand and gravel dams, one on the Lamar River and on the Nemisco. It also includes the creation of a powerhouse, 8 canals for water deviation, and 75 dikes. Even with the ecological management of this in-stream flow strategy devised by Hydro-Quebec, it would be surprising if, as stated by Hydro-Quebec, there were no major negative effects on the natural environment.
The demand for energy is growing, and it has been said that hydropower remains the power for the future. As previously stated, local need for energy has been met through Hydro-Quebec's development, yet it seems as though we continue to build more dams simply to strengthen the economy. The costs of hydropower, though sometimes hidden, are significant, whether it be in terms of loss of biodiversity and habitat destruction, or release of mercury into the food chain. The implications of hydroelectricity, therefore, cannot